Hello again, and welcome to the continuation of our Cyber Monday software showcase. I'm April Jaehn, and this next 30 minutes is all about piecing your blocks using your embroidery machine. You're going to achieve perfect points every single time. Now, before we dive in, I would like to introduce Tammy Madden. She's the gal behind the curtain, taking care of all the chat things. So, Tammy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, April. Today has been a fun day. I know you and I have been back and forth on live, and it has been a fun treat for me to see all of my friends doing what we love to do is piddle around in that software.
Absolutely. We've gotten to play all day long. I love it.
Yeah, and April, this next one that's coming up is powerhouse too, because I don't know about you, but for some reason my embroidery machine can make my quilt squares perfect, perfectly squared.
Yep.
But when my sewing machine does it, it's not that way.
Right, right. I know we don't have any topless points.
That's right. So I love doing in the hoop piecing with my embroidery machine because, like I said, my corners are perfectly pivoted. And once I take it out of the hoop, guess what? I'm already squared. I don't have to worry about having a cattywampus quilt when I'm done.
You got it. And then here's the follow-up, you guys, is that right after this presentation at the top of the hour, Tammy is going to take what I had shown and elevate it by showing you how to do the quilting on those blocks too. So these 2 hours you certainly don't want to miss, because if you have a hard time piecing in the hoop, but then you want to do all of that quilting in the hoop, we've got it completely covered in these 2 hours.
And we'll give them a little bit of top secret. It's all in one hooping. You don't even have to do it in two hoopings, right, April?
Exactly. Exactly. It's magic, you guys. Just wait.
Yep.
So
So
are you
I'm
ready to
excited
get
to see
started?
what you absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So my block piecer, okay? This is the software we're going to use today that to piece your quilt blocks in the hoop. What it does is it takes artwork quilt blocks and it converts it into stitches so that you can piece it right in your embroidery hoop. You simply cut your fabric pieces, you hoop your stabilizer, and then you watch your embroidery machine piece that perfect quilt block. It's like magic. So those perfectly pieced quilt blocks, that means no wonky seams, no misshapen blocks. With over 1,200 built-in quilt blocks, those custom traditional or foundation paper piece blocks are going to be a breeze to stitch. So here's the magic. My block piecer is going to resize any of those blocks. So that means you don't have to measure. You don't have to calculate and figure out your math. The software does it for you. So you can leave the graph paper at home, you can leave your colored pencils in the desk, because guess what? It will also add fabrics to your design so that way you can audition those fabrics first. Okay. With that click of an icon, it can automatically convert your piece files to cut files that are compatible with most of those digital cutters. And then, like I said, you can audition your fabrics as well right within that software. So are you ready to see this in action? We're going to head over to the software. Okay, software. If you've been with us for today, you know this looks familiar. Let me just tell you how we're there to hold your hand through the process. Is on these ellipses, you're going to have your manual, but then you also have your tutorials as well. And these are bite-sized video tutorials that walk you through how to navigate through the software so that way you can start creating right out of the gate. Okay, so I'm going to come into my sequence, and the magic within the software are these 4 icons right here. So our quilt block is where I'm going to start. And look at all of these different categories you can choose from. There's over 1,200 different artwork blocks for you to choose from. And just look, we've got AccuQuilt compatible blocks, album blocks, we've got stars, we've got diamonds in the square. For 5-patch, there are so many 5-patch blocks. We needed to do subcategories for the 5-patch. So you've got your 5-patch part 1. And look at all of these incredible blocks you have to choose from. Your part 2, Again, just more. And then blocks with sashing. So you've got so much right at your fingertips. This software really, really is a powerhouse software. So the other thing I'd like to talk to you about is right down here at the bottom, okay? There are so many blocks to choose from. What if you know you want a flying geese block, but you don't know where to look? See this find? I'm just going to type in a geese. And here is where it shows you all of the different geese blocks that are in the system. So I've got flying geese 5-patch. I'd had flying geese connector blocks. Look, I even have an entire foundation paper piecing for the flying geese. That's not all. Look at all of these. So those are all my foundations. Oops, I've got an overzealous clicky finger. I also have this paper flying geese log cabin, and look at how pretty that one is. See how gorgeous that one is? Not to mention, so I'm just going to keep on clicking through. But not to mention that there is an entire flying geese category. And look at all the blocks that you have to choose from right in here. So if you struggle with traditional piecing, this could be a really great option for you, because I don't know about you. I chose geese to show you specifically because, again, I cut the tips off of my geese all the time, and it's a little wonky on the straightaway. So being able to do and create these blocks right within my software and allow my embroidery machine to do it allows me not to have those, topless points. Okay. So let me show you how we do this. We're going to start off really basic. So I'm going to pop right here to my basic block and choose this diamond in a square. I can choose sizing. So notice how I've got several different sizes right here in my categories. But I'm going to choose that 8x8 section and click OK. Now, what do we have on our screen? I've got pieces, okay, of this block. All right. So that's all this is it's just different shapes. I'm going to use my bestie button to take this back. And from here, remember how I said you can audition your fabric in your block? There are over 20,000 fabric choices right in the software. So I've got batiks. Let me hit this drop down menu and look at all of these gorgeous batiks you can choose from. Okay. So we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different fabrics already loaded right in the system. You've got your Moda Uniteds and hundreds and hundreds of collections for this one. And I'm just going to use my scroll to show you. These are alphabetical, but look at all of the different Moda fabrics that you have to choose from, right? Already downloaded in the software for you. Now, does that mean that that's all you can use? It absolutely does not. So see how under my fabric designs, I've got animals and florals, and I have this FS Sue pen. Now, this is a software, this is a fabric collection that I have added myself. So to do that, you simply right click, create a new folder, and then add your fabrics. Most fabric websites, so your Free Spirit, those types of websites, they have those collections to where you can automatically download them to your softwares. So for this one, I'm going to use this Sue pen. And I'm going to grab, let's see which one I want to use today. Let's try this one, this blue, and see how that comes in. It will bring it in one at a time, or if I hit my control and hold down that control key, I can go back to that fabric and grab it, and it will populate all of them. So see how cute this is? What if I wanted to do, it's Christmas time, so let's go to holidays. I had grabbed a Free Spirit Christmas cabin, and I love this little plaid right here. And so let's go through and change that to the plaid. Let me find that again. There we go. There we go. Here we are. Okay. Now these plaids, what you're going to see is there is my ruler on this. And okay, it's just a visual representation, but the software is so powerful that it gives you the ability to rotate and move your fabric and scale it to where you can have specific things line up. So if I wanted these plaids to line up, I can adjust this until that plaid lines up perfectly with that. I can also rotate and scale that if I want. And look at how cute this is. So I'm going to grab my center and I'm going to add another fabric, and let's go through and add this pretty little owl. Again, my free spirit ruler comes in the middle. Let's grab that. And now we're going to offset that just by pulling that fabric down to take out that ruler. And look at how pretty that is. Okay, so you have the ability to audition fabrics. You have the ability to add fabrics. And I think that that is extraordinary. I don't even need to cut anything. I don't even need to pull fabrics or anything yet. I can do all of that straight from my software. Now, where does the magic happen? The magic happens here in the workflow. So your workflow creates the stitch files. Okay, so when I click my workflow, what we're going to get is, well, it just shows me my inside fabric. Okay, and that is because I didn't choose everything. So let me choose everything and now go into my workflow. So see how now I've got my inside piece. So my number one piece, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is my flow. Now, because I chose this to be an 8x8, my snap hoop monster in 8x8 is going to be a little bit too small. So I'm going to bump that up to my 9.5-inch snap hoop monster. And watch this. When I click this auto build, it is going to build this for me. So I've got my first piece. My first piece will sew to my second. My first piece will sew to my third, and so on and so forth. I can set my margins. So my seam allowances right down here. I can set that 1/4-inch seam. My right side's up, my right side's together. And now when I go to my preview, here is going to be my stitch file. I can save that as my diamond in a square. My diamond in a square file. I'm going to save this as the file format for it. So we've got every major machine brand format represented. So I'm just going to choose that PES file and click save. So, yep, I know I've already been working on it. There we go. And so, well, you know what I might need to do? There we are. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull that file. Okay. And let me show you what comes up from that. Whoops. Let me show you what comes up. Now you're getting a sneak peek of what's next. Here is my hero shot. Okay. My snap hoop monster. When I created this initially, I did this as a 6-inch instead of an 8-inch. So you get your hero shot. You get your stitch file. So this is stitched right on your stabilizer. And then what it does is it breaks it down. So you have your placement stitch. So everything stitches on the stabilizer first. All of these numbers, all of these items in purple. Then this green is tacking down that first set of that first piece of fabric that is right side up. Then your third stitch is going to be your tack down stitch because you've got your wrong sides together or right sides together, stitch, and then flip, and then it's going to tack that piece down. Your next stitch is going to be putting that fabric down, right sides together. It's going to be a stitch and then flip it to tack it down. Okay. So it is going to walk you through how to do this process so you get this perfectly pieced block every single time. Now let's run through what this will look like as a slow redraw. Okay. Like I said, it is going to stitch this all on your stabilizer. Now those little internal blocks here, this is going to be your overlap. This is your seam allowance, okay? So first thing you're going to stitch directly on the stabilizer is this, so you know where to put all your fabrics. This green is going to be the tack down stitch for that center fabric. So you place that one down, right side up, and then tack it down. The next thing is going to be this tack down line because you're going to have your fabric for this number 2 right sides together, tack that down, and then flip it over, and now it will tack down that stitch. Okay. So hold that fabric in place, flip it, and now tack it down. Stitch that fabric in place, and now tack it down. Stitch it, flip it, tack it down. Okay, that's the sequence for this one. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to show that with one click, you can send this to, or you can save this for a digital cutter. Okay, so from here, my cutter icon, notice how it's going to give me my centerpiece, and then it's going to give me my frames. Okay, now here's the beauty of this is if I'm making several blocks, I can change my repeats. Let's say I want to make 10 of these blocks. Let's click apply. See how it gives us all of the pieces in order to create this, okay? 10 different times. If my fabric is longer than that 45, I can change this to a 60. If I want to trim this with my scan and cut, look, I can set it to a 12 by 12. Or if I am using, making several blocks, I can set this as a 12 by 24 as well. And so see how this allows me to get a lot more cuts on those mats, and I can be a lot more efficient. So how do I do that one? So click my apply, then click my save, and then save that to your digital cut file formats. Notice we've got SVGs and we've got FCMs. So FCM for that brother scan and cut, that SVG for that Cricut or that silhouette. Okay, so all you do now is prep this fabric, build it in your software, send it to your digital cutter, and you are going to have perfect points every single time. Okay, so perfectly pieced blocks, no topless points, no foundation paper piecing that has short seams. This Cyber Monday pricing is going to get you my block piecer software and 3 software success tutorials to help you begin learning immediately. Plus, beginning today, software purchases will be housed at OESD.com. You'll have access to all of your serial numbers within the new My Software section at OESD.com. We're very, very excited about this unveiling. All right, so next thing is, again, we pride ourselves on education. So we're offering half price private lessons with a software purchase. This is a 30-minute one-on-one session with a software expert. You're going to get all of your questions answered at a date and time of your choosing. So don't hesitate to take advantage of these Cyber Monday pricing. Okay, so much within 18 minutes. I'm going to pull Tammy back in and see what kind of questions we have in the chat. Tammy?
Well, April, I do have a couple questions from you. Lots of great information. Here's a question from, it looks like Joanne Jones. She says, how is the software limited to the pieces that are included in the software, or can I create my own?
Oh my gosh. So that is such a great question. Even though it has over 1,200 blocks that are already included, you can absolutely create your own. And I love doing that just by combining sections within a block, with just playing with the blocks, within rotating different parts of a block, or just creating your own from scratch. You absolutely can do that. So long story longer, Joanne, no, you are not limited to just those 1,200 blocks that are included within my block piecer.
Absolutely. And then we have a question here from Holly A. She says, what kind of stabilizer is recommended for that 100% cotton fabric within the hoop piecing? What kind of stabilizer are you using, April, when you are piecing these in the hoop?
Okay, so when I'm piecing in the hoop, I will also be quilting in the hoop as well. So I use my block piecer and then Tammy's showcase at the top of the hour, my quilt embellisher. I use those in tandem. So I'm always thinking about that when I am creating. So I am usually going to use a no-show poly mesh because it is nice and drapable. Within seams, when I am sewing blocks together, it doesn't yield a lot of bulk. And it just keeps it nice and drapable. Now, if you don't want to go that poly mesh route, you can use a tearaway stabilizer. So we've got like ultra clean and tears. What I like to do when I am doing my piecing in the hoop, I like to either use a fusible or a sticker based stabilizer. So if I'm using a no-show, I'm going to use a fusible no-show. So when I flip my pieces over, I can press those with a small iron right in my hoop. Or if I'm using a paper type stabilizer that's meant to kind of disappear after a launder or two, I'm going to use like a stable stick tearaway. So one of those stabilizers that has an adhesive base on it to hold those items in place. That's what I use. What do you use, Tammy?
Well, April, it all depends, if I am going to put embroidery on it. Now
Mhm,
that's like putting like an embroidery design in the middle where I'm doing the quilting around it. I will make sure I use a poly mesh because that needs a little bit more of a
mhm,
stabilizer. But if
right.
I am just piecing in the hoop and I'm just going to end up quilting it, now
Mhm.
also it depends on if I'm putting that batting down first and then piecing on top of that. We got options here. It's all up
We
to
got
you guys.
so many options.
Yeah, so I also like the, different types of stabilizers depend on different type of
Mhm.
situations. I always like to refer back to that embroidery compass that we have to just kind of go on whatever
Yeah.
material you're working on. Remember, if you're using that heavy stitching, we're going to need a little bit more stabilizer than just a piece and stitch. What we have that you
Mhm.
tears away real easy. Um, April, maybe I can pull that out for when I do my demo in my next one and show them a little bit difference on the back of the stabilizer. I didn't have that in my plans, but I could always rearrange them. But I can pull those out and show them a couple different stabilizers that I use when I do my quilting.
Fabulous. Well, I'm going to go under the camera and I'm going to show them, this stitched out on a stabilizer, but then show them a few finishes because again, like Tammy said, there's so many different things and so many different ways. There's not I like to say there's not a wrong way to eat a Reese's cup besides not to eat it. Okay.
Right.
So lots of ways to do it. So Tammy, are you ready to get back to it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go quickly under the camera. Well, I'm going to try to go under the camera. There we go. So under the camera. So what did we talk about? So here is that placement for where you're going to put your fabrics. Notice all of these little circular areas right here. This is where you will place your fabric. Now, what does that mean? So this stitches out first, but what I've got here is I've got a block that is ready. And you know what I noticed on this one is I didn't do my sorts when I stitched this one. I just realized this when I was prepping. So if I were going to prep this like I showed you in the software, we would have, here's our cut pieces. So see how perfectly those are going to match up. See how they line up just perfectly in those lines. So the way we would do this, per the instructions I showed you earlier, so disregard my numbers on here. I would place this down first after I've done all this placement, and it's going to tack this down. Once this is tacked down all the way around, then what I would do is I would take my secondary spike and see how it is already notched out and line this up, and it is going to stitch down with that 1/4 of an inch. And we talked about stitch and flip. And so when I do my stitch and flip, notice what happens. So now this is ready. And here is why I like using a sticker-based stabilizer or a fusible-based stabilizer, because I can go ahead and iron this in the hoop if it's a fusible, or I can press this down onto that sticker and my fabric doesn't pop back up. And then my last piece is going to be that right sides together, stitch it with that red stitch or that red stitch that's in the software, and then flip this over. And again, depending on the stabilizer I'm using, this will now either stick in place or I'll fuse it down. But see how your blocks come together. So there's a block. So I'm going to show you this one. Do I have enough time? Yep. I'm going to show you this one in the software here in just a minute. This is the one we just created. Okay, that's my square and a square. What can you do? You can embellishment. That's what Tammy's going to show you in just a minute. Here is a design that is a little bit more complicated, but again, I'm doing it all in the hoop. And then I can finalize out with those beautiful, beautiful embroideries and those embellishments right on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to head back to the software, and I'm going to show you how to step this up just a little bit. We're going to go through this one a little bit faster, okay? So I'm going to grab my quilt block. I'm going to choose a design that is a little bit more complicated. So here's that spike I showed you under the camera. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now this time, I wanted to size it, but I forgot. But that's okay, because look, right over here in my properties, I can come right over here and size this down right within my properties, okay? So I'm the one who has all of the control within the software. Okay, what I want to do now is let's audition those fabrics. Okay, so I'm going to hold my shift key, not my shift key. I'm going to hold my control key and grab both of the artworks around the spike. Let's come to our fabrics and let's choose from this holiday. There is a cutie little Christmas tree. This one right here. Let's choose this Christmas tree. Now see how I like the way the Christmas trees look right here. Let's choose my fabric. Let's shift that left and right to see if I can get a little bit more of that Christmas tree. I can scale this down if I wanted. Okay. But I can move this up and down as well to get a different look altogether. Now over here, I don't like that my Christmas trees aren't showing at all. And I love the look of this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this one down. And then I'm going to pull it over as well, because look at how cute that little tree is right here. So I'm kind of fussy cutting my fabrics. Okay. Next, let's grab that center spike, pop back over to my fabrics. And this time I'm going to come over to my stripes. And look at all of these stripes that are included. I mean, you've got a lot that you can choose from. I'm going to choose these big pink stripes. And that's okay, but I don't like the stripes being vertical. Let's go ahead and do a rotate 90 degrees on that. And you have to click apply. Let's scale that one down a little bit. There we go. So I love this fabric. I want those stripes a little bit smaller. But look at what I'm doing is I'm the one who has complete creative control on what I want this block to look like. Okay, let's repeat. Let's come to our workflow. Let's do an auto build. Well, you know what? I did it again. I need to grab everything. Come to my workflow. There's my design on my scan and cut. Now I did this as a 6x6. So let's use my snap hoop monster in that 8x8. Do that auto build. Oh, hold on. Do you see how this is not lining up? So 1, 3, 2. Let's sort these numbers. Okay. Now, when I hit my sort, I've got my number 1, my number 2, my number 3. So under the camera, I did not realize before I did my stitch out that I needed to change that. Okay, so I've got all of the control right here. I still have my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Let's go ahead and preview this. There we go. Let's go ahead and click our save. Save that as my file format for my machine. Save that as a spike if my fingers will work for me. Save. And so now what I'm going to do, well, come on, spike. There we go. Yep, let's overwrite those files. Yep, let's overwrite those files. I know I did it, or I know I did it already. Well, let's just say no. There we go. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that file. Here is that design. Here's my slow redraw. So there's all of my placement stitches with my numbers. Placement, tack down. So stitch and then flip. Stitch and then flip. Stitch and then flip. And we are ready. For my artwork pieces, I simply grab everything, come to my cutter, change this to my scan and cut, click my apply, and then click my save and save that to either my SVG or my FCM to that thumb drive and then plug and play. And that is how easy this is. The software is so much fun to work with. So with that, I'd like to make sure that you tune in at the top of the hour because Tammy is going to be back and showcasing how to embellish these quilt blocks that we created. She's going to be using my Quilt Embellisher software. So Tammy, how about you come back and see if we've got any final questions that I didn't answer?
Well, let me look here really quickly. I am excited to be coming back at the top of the hour to show them how to embellish those quilts, but also just to let them know that it's not just my quilt embellisher. I like to call it my embellisher because I can do a lot more than just quilts.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so again, don't forget to go ahead and get that My Block Piecer on that special discounted pricing. Don't forget that you're going to get that half price code when you purchase that software. And so if designing all your quilting right in the hoop is your jam, you're not going to want to miss Tammy's presentation at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. I look forward to seeing you at an event in the future.